Have you ever wondered why your to-do list is always full and it feels incredibly hard to focus on one single task without getting distracted by phone calls, emails, Yeah. Over the last 6 years of coaching entrepreneurs to optimize their day-to-day performance, I noticed 3 big mistakes that they all make that wreck their focus. So today I'm going to show you the same things I showed over 300 of my coaching clients that solved it every time. But before we dive deep into the tricks and tools, we have to take a closer look on how the brain actually works. Remember the last time when you bought a new phone? The first time you use it, it worked fast and efficient. The battery lasted long and it had enough power. But the more you started to download apps, made pictures and videos, the system got busy and the phone started to work slowly. And now your battery doesn't last that long as if you bought the phone for the first time. With our brain, it's similar. Not because of selfies or cat videos, but because of toxic substances that are placed in our food and our environment. Things like certain foods, air pollution, toxic light, and sometimes even exercise can slow down our brain. And unfortunately, our brain needs a lot of energy. About 20% of our overall energy expenditure is used by the brain. That's more than every other organ in the body. And an exhausted brain can cause many states and behaviors that you later blame yourself for, like binge eating and consuming junk food, getting mad at the traffic jam.
What's worse than being stuck behind a learner driver? Being stuck behind two of the selfish pricks!
Getting distracted easily. Or small things like going to a room and already forget about why you went there. And of course also a lack of willpower. So you promised yourself to exercise today, but you still don't have the energy left to drag yourself to the gym. Or you want to push your business forward, but it feels incredibly hard to focus on the most important tasks. And it's very likely that these problems are not the result of a lack of discipline, but on a brain which is working below our actual potential. But how do we fix this? To find a solution for that, we have to search in the different regions of our brain. In 1960, a scientist named Dr. Paul MacLean developed the idea of the so-called threesome brain. So a simplified picture to divide the brain into 3 regions. The first region is the so-called reptilian brain. So the reptilian brain is the oldest part and is responsible for surviving functions. Things like adjusting body temperature. So crucial things that our bodies are able to survive. And because it's the most important for our survival, it has the biggest priority. Therefore, it gets served with energy first. The second region is the limbic system. It produces natural instincts that our ancestors used to survive, like eat and drink, reproduce themselves, care for young, and also react to surroundings. This is also known as our fight or flight response. So the limbic system, for example, gets activated when we are stressed. The third region is what I call the human brain, the prefrontal cortex. I call it the human brain because it's responsible for making decisions. And as intelligent individuals, we face a huge problem because our prefrontal cortex, so the human brain, needs the most energy. This is why it's scientifically proven that our brain is just able to do a specific number of decisions in a given day. So now, as we know these 3 regions of the brain, what happens when the batteries of your brain get empty? So as we know now, the reptilian brain always gets served with energy because it's the most important for our survival. So we can't really change anything on that. And what happens now is it creates an emergency situation inside the brain. And what happens is that the human brain, which is responsible for decision making, gets shut down. And on the other side, the limbic system gets activated heavily. So your fight and flight mode gets automatically turned on. And in that state, you get distracted so easy. You're sometimes rude to your colleagues and employees. You always forget what you wanted to do. And oftentimes, you also have cravings for sugar and junk food. Sometimes even the quick sound of a message on your phone can cause a quick scare. So to be really productive, to make smart, intelligent decisions, and to maintain focus on an important task is nearly impossible in that state. Now the question becomes, how do we avoid that state? How can we maintain balance between these 2 brain regions? So the trick is to just provide the brain with enough energy so that this emergency situation never happens. And to maintain high energy levels inside the brain and also fuel your brain with energy, I have 4 simple steps to take. First step comes down to your nutrition and diet, and this is provide the right fats. We got told for decades that fat, especially animal fat, is the root of all evil, and that a low-fat diet will solve all of our health issues. And nothing could be further from the truth. It's scientifically proven that your brain needs healthy fats, especially omega-3 and 6, as well as cholesterol. But what? I get told to avoid cholesterol. Well, your brain just makes about 2% of your overall body weight, but it carries 25% of your overall cholesterol. That's why consuming grass-fed butter, grass-fed beef, or organic eggs is a real brain booster. So sources for healthy fats are, for example, grass-fed butter, organic eggs, grass-fed meat, nuts like almonds, macadamias, or walnuts. I guess it's a nature sign that these things also look like brains. Avocados or fatty fish like, for example, salmon. So make sure that you consume healthy fats on a regular basis. For my clients, it works best to consume most of them for breakfast. Step 2 is to lower your inflammation. It's simple. The lower your inflammation levels, the better your brain works. Because the problem is your brain reacts pretty sensitive to inflammation. Every inflammation process produces so-called cytokines, which slow down our brain function. And to lower inflammation, we're gonna come back to the right food choices. To make it simple, increase omega-3 like grass-fed beef, fatty fish, or even omega-3 supplementation, and consume less omega-6 like seed oils, grain, low-quality meat, or even processed foods. Because the actual best ratio between omega-6 and 3 should be around 1:1 until 4:1. For the average US population, the consumed ratio is right now between 10:1 up to 20:1. And to decrease inflammation even further, you can eat foods which are rich in so-called polyphenols. These can be fruits or vegetables with a dark color, something like blueberries, red grapes, pomegranate seeds, or high quality chocolate or cacao in general. Step number 3, fix your gut. Because we know there's a connection between our gut and our brain, which is called the gut-brain axis. That's why some scientists call the gut our second brain. A new study from the Harvard University from 2024 found that a healthy gut microbiome can increase cognitive performance from Alzheimer patients up to 40%. This shows the importance of a balanced gut microbiome, not just for our physical, but also for our mental performance. What I recommend and also guide my clients through is a gut health test. I use with my clients the gut intelligence test from Viome, which shows us also which foods are optimal and which foods to avoid. And they give you specific recommendations for needed probiotics. Step 4, eliminate everyday toxins. I'm sorry if I have to tell you, but you are surrounded by environmental toxins, and it's simply not possible to avoid all of them. But here are some tips and tricks to avoid everyday toxins. First of all, avoid drinking tap water because it contains fluoride, and fluoride can limit our thyroid function. Reduce heavy metals. By this, I don't mean the music, but heavy metals which are placed in our foods. The biggest sources are, for example, big fishes like tuna or swordfish. The bigger the fish, and especially hunters, the more heavy metals are in it. And improve air quality. A friend entrepreneur of mine is a building biologist, and he says that many houses and flats have elevated levels of mold, and this can cause inflammation and can inhibit our brain function. I recommend at home, especially in your bedroom, using a HEPA air filter, things like snake plants, and of course, ventilate on a regular basis. If you want to learn more about my personal sleep setup and how I set up my bedroom to improve sleep quality, you will love this video right here. And if you want to learn more in general about optimizing health and performance, then subscribe to that channel.